going to talk about how Emperor Theodosius I defeated the two usurpers during his reign. Now, Theodosius the First, or Theodosius the Great, became emperor in early 379 AD. Now, how did he become an emperor? His father was a count. He used to work for Valentinian II, Valentinian I, and he won many of his wars until he was executed, perhaps due to a misunderstanding. And when his father was executed, he retired. Theodosius I, he retired to his estates in Spain, and Theodosius himself used to be the Count of Mysia, which is in northern Bulgaria. And in 378 AD, what happened was two big groups of Goths, the Glefungi and the Therungi. Goths allied themselves to a group of Alans and a group of Huns, and they defeated Valens, Eastern Roman Emperor Valens, at the Battle of Hadrianople in August 378. Now, when Emperor Julian died and Iorinus died, the emperor was split between the two brothers, Valentinian I and West, and Valentinian I West. Valentinian dies in 375 AD, and his two sons, Gratian and Valentinian II, take control of the West, and Valens retained the East until he was killed in the Battle of Hadrianople by the Goths, Alans and Huns mainly, and the great Germanic victory was due to a local chieftain called Fritigern. And now, more or less, Gratian became sole ruler for about half a year, or at least he ruled the West, and the East was ungovernable until early 379. Theodosius I, the ex-count of Mysia, Mysia, was recalled, and he fights the Germanic tribes for 3 years, and he finally forces them to become his subject. He kills some of them. He forces others to become federates within the empire, and the war with the Germans ends. And there were two more Gothic wars when some more Gothic bands crossed the Danube River, and they were defeated again by Theodosius. Now, Theodosius, during his long reign, his 15-year reign, had to face two usurpers. Now, as we said before, the West was ruled mainly by Gratian, the elder son of Valentinian I, and the younger puppet king, Valentinian II, in the West. And all of a sudden, in 383, now just when Theodosius I defeats the Gothic tribes and the Alans and the Huns in the East, a usurper appears who seems to he challenges the authority of Western Emperor Gratian. Now, just a year after the treaty with the Goths, 383, a familiar problem reared its head once more. A local commander, Magnus Maximus, was proclaimed emperor by the troops in Britain. He was another Spaniard, probably known to perhaps even a relation of Theodosius. Gratian refused to recognize the usurper and massed an army to confront him. Now, when Magnus Maximus crossed into Gaul from Britain, there was some skirmishing near Paris, but after several days, Gratian's army went over en masse to his opponent. He fled but was caught at Lugdunum, modern Lyons, and was executed. It was clearly a well-orchestrated coup d'etat, and Magnus Maximus had secured the backing of many senior officers and court officials. Some senior members of the court were arrested and executed, but the majority switched sides. Less clear is why Gratian had lost the support of his troops. His military record was quite good, but he was accused of granting excessive favour to one regiment of Alan cavalry and starting to indulge too much in pleasures rather than working. Now, Magnus Maximus controlled the European province north of the Alps. He clearly hoped for recognition as a colleague by Theodosius A. He invited the 12-year-old Valentinian II to move to Milan and join him at his court in Trier, so they can rule as father. Son skillfully created delays in negotiations, gave time for troops loyal to the boy to secure the Alpine passes. Magnus Maximus still hoped for reconciliation and made no attempt to use force at this stage. For the moment, Theodosius recognized the usurper and his name appeared in official documents. So he also elevated his son Argobast, who was no more than 5 or 6 years old, to the rank of Augustus. However, a few years later, Maximus launched a sudden attack on Italy, and by 387, that's 4 years after he usurped power in the west, he was in Milan and in full control of Valentinian's territories. The latter, along with most of his court, escaped safely to Emperor Theodosius in the east. The extension of Magnus Maximus' ambitions signaled a permanent break within the Eastern Emperor. Valentinian's mother Justina was a formidable woman and had clearly had considerable sway over her son's decisions. Now she is said to have exploited the beauty of the boy's sister to fascinate Emperor Theodosius. The two were married soon afterwards, and allegedly the bride's price was a promise to recover the lost territory from Magnus Maximus. Whatever the precise reasons, in the summer of 388, a fast-moving expeditionary force caught the western usurper at Aquileia, near modern Venice. Maximus was stripped of his imperial robes and beheaded. There was some more fighting against forces that remained loyal to his family before the west was fully recovered. So that's 5 years. Magnus Maximus, the commander of Britain, had usurped control for like 5 years. And Emperor Theodosius restored Valentinian, the brother of his wife, Galla Placida. Right, now, formerly the empire now had 3 Augusti, Theodosius, Valentinian II, and Arcadius. Although it was abundantly clear that the real power rested with Theodosius himself. Valentinian remained little more than a cipher. After his mother died, actual control rested with some senior officers appointed by Theodosius. The most prominent of these was Argobast. Like many senior officers in the army, he was of barbarian, in this case Frankic, descent. As time went on, he became more and more contemptuous of the Augustus he was supposed to serve. He assumed the rank of master soldier, that's magister militum, without bothering to consult Valentinian about it. When the emperor dismissed him, Argobast calmly told him to face that he did not have the power to do this. The 21-year-old Valentinian was a pathetic figure. On the 15th May 390, he was found dead in his bedroom. He may have been suicide. Argobast obviously felt his background barred from becoming emperor himself, and so named a certain Flavius Eugenius as Augustus, once a teacher of grammar and rhetoric. His prized literary education won him a post at Valentinian's court. From the beginning, he was obviously a figurehead, at least nominally a Christian. Unlike Argobast, who was openly pagan, Eugenius began to cultivate the support of the pagans. This probably grew stronger after Emperor Theodosius named his younger son Honorius as Augustus at the beginning of 393, making clear that he would not accept the usurper. The civil war that followed was once again decided near Aquileia, near modern-day Venice. In September 394, the two armies met beside the river Frigidus, which is actually in Slovenia, modern-day Slovenia. After heavy and costly fighting lasting for 2 days, Theodosius' army was triumphant. Eugenius was captured when his camp was stormed and was promptly executed. Argobast committed suicide before he was taken alive. A very sizable contingent of Theodosius' army was formed by Gothic warriors raised from the people settled in 382. On the first day of fighting, they bore both the brunt of the fighting and the losses. Later, some Romans would claim that this made it a double victory for the empire, because he had them exposed. They were killed, and Theodosius defeated some future enemies. Now, at Adrianople, the Goths had killed Valens. although probably more by accident than design. They never had any prospect of inflicting a permanent defeat on the empire, and Theodosius had been able to wear them down over the next few years. Yet ultimately they presented a valuable resource of military manpower. This was why they had been admitted in the first place, and why the Romans would probably not have chosen to destroy them, even if they had been able to do so. Just over a decade later, the warriors greatly strengthened Theodosius' army and may even have given him a decisive advantage over Eugenius and Argobast. Barbarian incursions were a nuisance, but it was always internal enemies who threatened an emperor's rule and very life. And a few months later, in early 395, Theodosius fought. He probably caught some sort of cold in the Alps, in the Slovenian-Italian border, modern-day Slovenian-Italian border, and he caught cold and he died in early 395. And he was succeeded by his two sons, weak sons. Honorius inherited the Western Empire, and his other son, the weak Arcadius, inherited the Eastern Empire. And the empire never united. Actually, after the Battle of Frigidus, Theodosius united the empire again for a couple of months, and after his sons took over, it was never really united again. Both sons were weak. They were dominated by the magister militum, most of them Germanic descent, and the Western Empire started to shrink after that, after the death of Theodosius. And Theodosius also defeated the Germans 2 more times after his initial victory over them in 382 AD. So the 2 usurpers were Magnus Maximus, who was probably a Celt or a Spaniard, and his Germanic commander Andragathius, and then he defeated Argobast, who was again a German, and his Roman figurehead Eugenius. And also Theodosius was quite lucky because he didn't have to face the Persian Empire at the time. He had signed a treaty with them. So he defeated the Germans 3 times, he defeated 2 usurpers and their allies. So that's it. So that's how Theodosius the Great defeated the 2 usurpers, Magnus Maximus, Andragathius, Argobast, Eugenius.